I inherited a rusty trailer from my grandfather, but I almost fainted at what was inside. Tyler Johnson never imagined that the news about his grandfather's inheritance could change his life forever. For years, he had grown up believing that Walter Johnson was just a bitter man who had abandoned the family when he was a child. It was when the lawyer called to inform him that he had inherited a trailer parked on a lot outside Milwaukee that Tyler felt the world spin. What could possibly be valuable in that hunk of junk he didn't even know existed? "Mr. Tyler, I need you to go to the location to sign the transfer documents," said Attorney Davis over the phone. "Everything is stored there at the address I'll give you." Tyler hung up, still processing the information. At 28, he worked as a mechanic at the neighborhood garage where he lived with his mother, Karen, in a modest house on the outskirts of Chicago. Life had always been tough, but they made do with what little they had. "Mom, did you know Grandpa had a trailer?" he asked as soon as he got home, still wearing his grease-stained overalls. Karen stopped chopping onions and looked at her son with a strange expression. "Tyler, your grandfather had a lot of things we didn't know about. Best to leave the past alone, son." "But Mom, he left me this trailer. There must be a reason, right?" The 52-year-old woman sighed deeply and turned back to dinner. "Your grandfather was always full of mysteries. Ever since he left home, we never really knew what he was up to." That night, Tyler barely slept, wondering what he might find. The following Saturday, he borrowed his neighbor's car and drove to the address the lawyer had given him. The lot was in a rural area, surrounded by a low wire fence and overgrown with weeds. At the back, nearly hidden by some trees, was the silver trailer. Even from a distance, he could see it was covered in rust, its windows cracked. Tyler parked and walked slowly toward the vehicle. His heart pounded harder with each step. There was something about that place that stirred him in a way he couldn't explain. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, back to the story. The key the lawyer had given him was a little rusty but still worked. When Tyler finally opened the door, he was hit by a strong smell of mold and dampness. It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust to the darkness inside. The first things he saw were furniture covered in dusty sheets, a small table, a few chairs, a bed in the back. It looked like someone had lived there for a long time, but it was when he approached the table that his heart nearly stopped. Neatly stacked were dozens and dozens of letters, all in envelopes yellowed with age, and all with the same handwritten name, Tyler Johnson. With trembling hands, he picked up the first letter in the pile. The postmark read, January 15th, 1996. Tyler did the math quickly. He had been just 2 years old at the time. He carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the sheet of paper. The handwriting was shaky, but still legible. My dear grandson, Tyler, today you turned 2. I know I can't be there to give you a hug, but I want you to know I think of you every day. Your mother must be telling you that Grandpa is a bad man, but one day you'll understand that not everything is as it seems. Tyler sank heavily into one of the chairs, still reading the letter. His grandfather went on about how much he missed him, how he wished he could teach him to fix cars, how proud he was to hear he was a smart boy. What the hell? He murmured to himself. He picked up another letter, this one from March of the same year. Then another from May, and another from August. Walter had written to him weekly all those years. That's when something on the corner of the table caught his attention. Among the letters were some old photographs. Tyler picked one up and held it to the window to see better. The photo showed a girl around 5 years old playing on a playground. She had curly brown hair and a wide smile. There was something familiar about that face, but Tyler couldn't place it. He turned the photo over and read what was written on the back in the same shaky handwriting as his grandfather's. Emily, 5 years old, your sister needs you. The world stopped. Tyler dropped the photo and leaned against the trailer wall. Sister? What sister? His mother had always said he was an only child. He picked up the photo again and looked more closely. Now he could see it. The girl's eyes were just like his. The shape of her face, too. How was it possible he had a sister and never knew? His legs weak. He sat back down and began sifting through the letters, searching for more information. In a letter from 1998, he found what he was looking for. Tyler, today your little sister Emily turned 7. She asked about you again. I don't know what to tell her anymore. How do I explain that the family fell apart because of lies? How do I say you two were separated to protect secrets that should never have existed? Tyler's hands trembled so much he could barely hold the paper. He kept reading. I know one day you'll want the truth. That's why I've kept everything here in this trailer. All the letters, all the photos, all the documents. When I'm gone, it will all be yours. Then you can decide whether to find your sister or leave things as they are. Tyler threw the letter onto the table and ran out of the trailer. He needed fresh air. He needed to think. How could his mother have hidden this from him for so many years? He paced in circles outside, trying to process everything he'd just learned. A sister. He had a sister named Emily. After a few minutes, he gathered the courage to go back inside. This time, he decided to explore more carefully. He uncovered some of the sheet-draped furniture and found more things. Children's clothes stored in plastic bags, old toys, more photos. In a dresser drawer, he found a large envelope labeled Important Documents on the outside. Inside were birth certificates, trailer documents, and a more recent letter, dated just 2 years earlier. Tyler, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I'm sorry I didn't have the courage to find you sooner. I know you must be confused and angry, but you need to understand everything I did was to protect you and your sister. The letter went on for several pages, telling a story Tyler could never have imagined. His grandfather hadn't abandoned the family because he was a bad man. He'd been forced to leave after taking the blame for something he didn't do. Your father, my son Richard, got into trouble at work. He was embezzling money from the company to pay for your mother's treatment. She was very sick at the time. When they found out, they were going to arrest him and you'd have been left with nothing. So I took the blame. I said I was the one who stole the money. Tyler had to stop reading. His father had done that. The man he barely remembered, who had died when he was just 8 years old. The letter revealed even more secrets. Emily wasn't just Richard and Karen's daughter. She was Richard's child with another woman, but Karen had agreed to raise her as her own. When the scandal broke and Walter took the blame to protect his son, things became unbearable. Your father's other family wanted no more trouble. They took Emily away, and Karen agreed, thinking it was best for everyone. I tried to stop it, but I no longer had a voice in the family. So I followed Emily to where they took her and stayed nearby, watching over her from a distance. The words in the letter began to tremble, as if Grandpa was deeply emotional while writing. All these years, I looked after your sister as best I could. I couldn't get too close to avoid causing more trouble, but I was always nearby. She grew up knowing she had a brother but never knew where you were, just like you never knew about her. Tyler felt a tear roll down his cheek. His entire life had been built on lies. His mother knew everything and never said a word. She let him grow up thinking he was alone in the world, when in reality, he had a sister who probably missed him too. The letter ended with an address in Madison and a name, Golden Years Retirement Home. Emily works there. She's become a wonderful woman, dedicated to caring for the elderly. She has a heart as big as the world, just like your father when he was young. If you decide to look for her, be patient. She's spent her whole life waiting for you, but now she may have built walls to protect herself. Tyler folded the letter and tucked it into his pocket. He looked around the trailer once more, seeing all those objects with new eyes. Every item there told a story of love and sacrifice he'd never known. He grabbed a few more letters and photos, locked the trailer, and returned to his car. His mind was a whirlwind, but one thing was certain: he needed to talk to his mother. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. The drive back to Chicago felt like an eternity. Tyler rehearsed the conversation with Karen 1,000 times, but he couldn't imagine how she'd react. When he got home, it was already night. His mother was watching TV in the living room, as she always did after dinner. "You're late, son. How was that trailer?" Tyler sat beside her on the couch and pulled out the photos. "Mom, who is this girl?" Karen looked at the photo, and her expression completely changed. The color drained from her face. "Tyler, where did you find this?" "In Grandpa's trailer, along with hundreds of letters he wrote to me over 20 years, letters I never received." Karen stood up and began pacing nervously. "Your grandfather had no right to keep those things. The past is in the past, Tyler." "Mom, this girl is my sister, isn't she?" The silence that followed was confirmation enough. Karen sank into the armchair and began to cry. "I never wanted you to find out. It was better this way, believe me." "Better for who, Mom? For you, for me, for her?" "For everyone," Karen shouted. "You don't understand what happened back then. Everything was a mess. Your father made mistakes at work. Your grandfather took the blame. Emily's family wanted nothing to do with us. It was better to leave things as they were." Tyler stood up furious. "You let me grow up thinking I had no one in the world but you. And you let a child grow up without her brother. How can you say it was better?" "Because it was," Karen shouted back. "You were little. You would have forgotten each other. It was easier this way." "Easier for who, Mom? For you, who didn't want to deal with the problems? Or for a 5-year-old who probably spent years asking where her brother was?" Karen kept crying, but now there was anger mixed with her sadness. Your grandfather had no right to interfere. He already caused enough trouble taking the blame for your father. He should have left things alone. Grandpa took the blame to protect Dad, to protect our family, and you thanked him by kicking him out of the house and separating two brothers who loved each other. You don't understand, Tyler. You were too young. Then explain it to me now. Tell me everything. Karen took a deep breath and began telling her version of the story. She confirmed everything Tyler had read in the letters, but with details that showed just how difficult the situation had really been. Richard had indeed embezzled money from the company where he worked as an accountant, but it was to pay for an experimental treatment for Karen, who had been diagnosed with a serious illness. The treatment wasn't covered by insurance, and they didn't have the money. Your father loved me so much he was willing to risk everything for me, Karen said, wiping away tears. When they discovered the missing money, your grandfather didn't hesitate. He took the blame, and that was that. What about Emily? Emily was your father's daughter with Jennifer, a co-worker. When things got bad, Jennifer wanted to take the girl away from Chicago. She said she didn't want her daughter growing up surrounded by scandal. And you let her? What could I do, Tyler? She wasn't even really my daughter, and I was sick, in no condition to raise 2 children alone. Tyler sat at the kitchen table trying to process it all. But why didn't you ever tell me later, when you got better, when I grew up? Because I thought it was for the best. Emily was well cared for. You were growing up fine. Why reopen old wounds? Mom, you took away my right to know my sister. You took away her right to have a brother. How could you think that was okay? Karen didn't answer. Tyler realized she would never truly understand the weight of what she'd done. To her, it had been a practical decision in a difficult moment, but the consequences of that decision had affected 3 lives forever. Where is she now? Tyler asked. I don't know. We lost touch with Jennifer's family years ago. Tyler showed the address he'd found in his grandfather's letter. Grandpa knew where she was. He kept looking after her from afar all these years. Karen looked at the paper and sighed. Tyler, please let it go. You can't just show up in her life after all this time. That's not your call, Mom. It's between me and her. The next day, Tyler took time off from the garage and boarded a bus to Madison. The whole ride, he imagined how the meeting would go. Emily would be 25 now, a grown woman with her own life. Would she even want to see him? Golden years. Retirement home was in a quiet neighborhood, a large house adapted for residents. Tyler stood outside for several minutes, gathering his courage. When he finally walked in, he was greeted by a middle-aged woman at the front desk. Good afternoon. How can I help you? Good afternoon. I'm looking for an employee named Emily. Emily? Tyler realized he didn't know his sister's last name. Emily Davis? Maybe. A young woman, 25, curly brown hair. Oh yes, our Emily. She's in the garden with the residents. I'll get her. The woman left, and Tyler waited in the sitting room. His heart pounded so hard he was sure everyone could hear it. A few minutes later, he heard footsteps approaching. When he turned, he saw a young woman walking toward him. It was her, no doubt. The same eyes, the same face shape he'd seen in childhood photos. Emily stopped a few feet away, studying him curiously. "Mrs. Henderson said someone was asking for me. Can I help you?" Tyler's throat went dry. How do you start a conversation like this? "My name is Tyler Johnson." Emily's face changed completely. Her eyes widened and she brought a hand to her mouth. "No, that's impossible." "I think you're my sister." Emily leaned against the wall, clearly in shock. "Tyler? My brother Tyler." "I think so." For a few seconds they just stared at each other, unsure of what to say. It was Emily who broke the silence. "Grandpa Walter said you'd come looking for me one day, but that was so long ago I stopped believing." "You knew Grandpa?" "He took care of me my whole life. He lived in a small house nearby and visited me whenever he could. He passed away 2 years ago." Tyler felt the tears coming. "He left me a trailer full of letters and photos. That's how I found out you existed." Emily also began to cry. "He always said you'd show up someday, that you'd come looking for me when you learned the truth." "Emily, I didn't even know I had a sister. My mom never told me anything. My family didn't like talking about you either. They said it was better to forget the past." They talked for hours in the common room of the retirement home. Emily told him how she'd been raised by her biological mother's family in Madison, how she'd grown up knowing she had a brother, but couldn't look for him. "Grandpa Walter used to tell me stories about you. He said you were just like him, loved tinkering with cars, were clever and stubborn," Emily said, smiling for the first time. "He was right about the cars. I work as a mechanic." He knew. He knew everything about your life. Every time he visited me, he brought news about you." Tyler realized Walter had lied to Emily all those years. He told her Tyler knew about her and that one day when he was ready, he'd come find her. He never told her Karen had hidden the truth from her son. "So you spent all these years thinking I didn't want to meet you?" Emily looked down. "Sometimes I did, especially as I got older and you never came. I thought maybe you had your own life and didn't want a sister in it." "Emily, I swear on everything sacred, I never knew about you. If I had, I would have come for you the same day." "I know. Grandpa always said that once you found out, you'd move heaven and earth to find me." They talked until the retirement home closed for visitors. They agreed to meet the next day when Emily was off work. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now back to the story. Tyler spent the night at a simple inn in downtown Madison but barely slept. He kept thinking about all the lost years, all the conversations they could have had, all the important moments they'd missed. The next day, they met in a park near the retirement home. Emily brought a shoebox full of things. "These are the letters Grandpa wrote to you," she said, handing the box to Tyler. "He always gave me a copy of every letter he sent. He said one day you'd want to see them all." Tyler opened one of the letters and immediately recognized his grandfather's handwriting. It was identical to the letters he'd found in the trailer. "Emily, I need to show you something. Can you come with me to Milwaukee? Now? If you can. I want to take you to Grandpa's trailer. There are things there I think you should see." Emily got permission from the retirement home supervisor, and they took a bus to Milwaukee. During the trip, Tyler told her everything he'd discovered about their family's past, how their grandfather had taken the blame for their father. "I always knew Grandpa was hiding something," Emily said. "He'd get so sad when he talked about the family, but he never wanted to tell me the details." When they arrived at the lot where the trailer was parked, Emily stopped at the entrance and stared at the rusty vehicle. This is where he'd go when he disappeared for days. He always said he had a special project, but he never brought me here. Tyler opened the trailer door and let Emily step inside first. Her reaction mirrored his. She stood still for several seconds, trying to process everything she was seeing. My God, he kept everything. Emily approached the table with the letters and photos. She picked up a childhood photo of herself that Tyler hadn't seen the day before. This photo. I remember when he took it. I had just learned to ride a bike. "Look at this," said Tyler, opening one of the cabinets. Inside were children's clothes, both for boys and girls, all stored in plastic bags with mothballs. There were also toys, toy cars, dolls, board games. "He saved gifts for us," Emily murmured. "Every birthday, every Christmas." In another drawer, they found something that moved them even more. Childhood drawings. Some were Tyler's, others were Emily's, but all were addressed to each other. "To my little sister," Tyler read from a drawing of a car he had made at 6 years old. "To my dear brother," Emily read from a family portrait she had drawn at 8. He carried our drawings to each other, Tyler realized. He made us communicate without even knowing. At the back of the trailer, they found something even more special, a wooden chest with Tyler and Emily carved on the lid. Inside were photo albums documenting their lives over the years. Walter had recorded everything: Tyler's first steps, Emily's preschool graduation, his first job, her quinceañera. He had been present in their lives, even if they hadn't known it. "He never abandoned us," Emily said, tears streaming down her face. "He was always there." "And we never got to thank him," Tyler replied, the weight of loss heavy in his voice. They spent the rest of the day exploring every corner of the trailer, uncovering more of their grandfather's secrets. In a small drawer, they found the keys to a safe hidden under the bed. Inside were legal documents, including a letter addressed specifically to the moment they would finally reunite. "My dear grandchildren, if you're reading this together, it means my plan worked. Forgive this old man for keeping so many secrets, but it was the only way I could protect you while keeping the family together, even from afar." The letter revealed even more about the past. Walter explained how he had discovered Richard's embezzlement and why he had chosen to take the blame. "Your father wasn't a bad man. He was desperate, watching the woman he loved grow sick without being able to afford treatment. He made a mistake, but out of love. I couldn't let you grow up knowing your father was a thief." He also explained why he had agreed to leave the family. "Karen was right when she said my presence would only make things harder. People would always remember the scandal when they saw me. It was better for me to disappear so you could start fresh." But the most emotional part came at the end. "I couldn't stay away from my grandchildren, so I found a way to watch over you without disrupting your lives. I followed every step you took, every victory, every struggle, and I kept everything here, waiting for the day you'd discover you were never alone." Walter ended the letter with instructions about a bank account he had opened in their names. For 20 years, he had deposited every penny he could save from odd jobs and small jobs. "This money is for you to start over together. Use it however you wish, for a business, a home, your education. What matters is that you do it as a family." Tyler and Emily exchanged glances, still processing everything. "He spent 20 years saving money for us," Emily said. "While we didn't even know he existed," Tyler finished. They decided to stay in the trailer until late, talking about everything they had lost and everything they could build together. Emily shared about her work at the retirement home, how she had dedicated herself to caring for people forgotten by their families. "Now I understand why you chose this work," said Tyler. "You know what it feels like to be abandoned." "Exactly. Every time I see an elderly person alone, I remember myself waiting for you." Tyler talked about his life as a mechanic, how he always felt something was missing in his life but never knew what it was. "I always had this feeling that I'd lost something important, but I didn't know what. Now I do. It was you." As it grew dark, they locked up the trailer and headed back to Madison. During the drive, they planned what the future might look like. "I want you to come to Chicago," Tyler said. "We can live together, be a real family." Emily hesitated. "Tyler, I have my life here, my job, my friends. It's not that simple." "But we're siblings, Emily. We lost 20 years together. We can't waste any more time." "I know, but I can't just drop everything overnight. I need time." Tyler understood but felt frustrated. He had just found his sister and already had to say goodbye again. Over the following days, they talked on the phone every day. Tyler returned to Chicago, but his mind stayed in Madison. He couldn't focus at work. All he thought about was Emily. Karen noticed the change in her son and tried to talk to him. "Son, you can't turn your whole life upside down over this. Mom, you don't understand. I found my sister. Finally, I have a real family." You already had a family, with me. You hid my sister's existence from me for 28 years. How can you say we were a real family? Karen was hurt, but Tyler could no longer pretend everything was fine. The discovery had changed everything for him. 2 weeks later, Tyler got a call from Emily that left him worried. "Tyler, I think someone's been messing with things in the trailer." "What do you mean?" "I stopped by today and the door was slightly open. I know we locked it properly." Tyler grew nervous. There were important documents in the trailer along with all their grandfather's memories. "I'm coming there now." "Tyler, you don't have to. I already talked to the police and they'll check it out." "No, Emily, I'm coming. That's all we have left of Grandpa. I won't let anyone touch it." Tyler took time off again and drove to Madison. When he arrived at the lot, he found Emily talking to an officer. "What happened?" "Someone went through everything inside," Emily said, "but from what we can tell, they didn't take anything. Just made a mess." Tyler stepped into the trailer and saw everything had been tossed. Letters were scattered on the floor, cabinets left open, drawers turned upside down. "They were looking for something specific," the officer said. "This wasn't random vandalism." "But what could anyone want here?" Tyler asked. It was Emily who realized. "Tyler, did you tell your mom about the money Grandpa left?" Tyler thought for a moment. "I mentioned he left an inheritance, but I didn't go into details." "Anyone else?" "Just Mike from the garage. He's my best friend." Emily and Tyler exchanged a look. "You think—" Tyler started. "I don't know. But someone knew there was something valuable here. They straightened up the trailer as best they could and decided to take the most important documents with them." Tyler no longer felt safe leaving everything there. Back in Madison, they went to the small apartment where Emily lived alone. It was simple but cozy, filled with plants and photos of the elderly she cared for. "Tyler, I need to tell you something," Emily said as she made coffee. "It wasn't just today that I felt someone was messing with the trailer." "What do you mean?" "Over the last few months before you showed up, sometimes when I went there, I felt like things were out of place, but I thought it was just my imagination." "Why didn't you say anything before?" "Because I was afraid it was paranoia. Grandpa always said I was too suspicious." Tyler grew thoughtful. If someone had been eyeing the trailer for months, it meant they knew about it even before Tyler discovered it. "Emily, who else knew about the trailer?" "As far as I know, just me and Grandpa." "Oh, and the lawyer, of course. Attorney Davis, he's the one who called me about the inheritance. Do you think he—" "I don't know, but it's weird, right? Grandpa passed 2 years ago, but the lawyer only reached out now. They decided to go to the lawyer's office the next day to clear things up, but when they arrived, they found out Davis had gone on a trip and wouldn't be back until the following week." "This is getting really strange," Emily said. That night, Tyler decided to stay at Emily's apartment so she wouldn't be alone. They set up a mattress in the living room and talked late into the night about the childhood they never shared. "You know what's worse?" Emily said. "Grandpa always said you'd like the same movies as me, that we'd get along great. He was right. He knew us better than we knew ourselves." "Tyler, I have an idea. What if we talk to Aunt Jennifer?" "Who?" Our stepmother. Her sister is my biological mother. She always knew the whole family story." Tyler didn't realize Emily was in touch with that side of the family. "Where does she live?" "Right here in Madison. I can call her tomorrow." The next day, they visited Jennifer Davis, a 60-year-old woman who lived in a modest house in the city center. She greeted Tyler with surprise, but also warmth. "My boy, how you've grown. You look just like your father when he was young." "You knew my father?" "I sure did. Richard was a good man, just got into trouble because of love." Jennifer confirmed the story they already knew, but added important details. "After your grandfather took the blame, a lot of people were angry with him. Some folks from the company where Richard worked never believed the official story." "What do you mean?" "They thought Richard and Walter were in on the embezzlement together. That Walter only took the blame because he was older and would get a lighter sentence. But that's a lie." "I know, dear, but people believed it, and some of those people are still around." Jennifer told them that in recent years some people had been asking about Walter, wanting to know where he lived, and if he'd left any inheritance. "Who were these people?" Emily asked. Former co-workers of Richard's, people who lost their jobs when the company shut down because of the scandal. The company closed? Yes. The owner said he couldn't trust the employees after what happened. A lot of people were left jobless and bitter. Tyler and Emily exchanged glances. They were starting to understand why someone might be interested in the trailer. Aunt Jennifer, do you think any of them could be looking for revenge? Not revenge, dears, money. They always thought Walter kept some of the embezzled money, that he didn't return it all. But Grandpa was poor, Emily protested. You know that, I know that, but they don't. To them, Walter spent 20 years hiding because he was spending the stolen cash. Jennifer also revealed something neither of them knew. Walter had tried multiple times to clear his and Richard's names, but never succeeded. He gathered evidence, documents, everything he could to show that Richard only took the money to pay for Karen's treatment, but no one would listen. What kind of evidence? Medical receipts, hospital payment records, things like that. He kept everything in a folder. Tyler remembered the document folder he'd seen in the trailer. Was that folder in the trailer when they found it ransacked? I don't remember seeing it, said Emily. They said goodbye to Jennifer and rushed back to the property. They searched every corner of the trailer, but the folder wasn't there. They took it, said Tyler. That's what they were looking for. But why? What was in that folder that was so important? Tyler thought for a moment. Emily, what if that folder didn't just have proof of Grandpa's innocence, but also proof of who was really behind the embezzlement? What do you mean? What if my father wasn't the only one who embezzled money? What if he was being used by someone higher up? The possibility frightened them both. If Tyler was right, Walter had discovered something very important before taking the blame. They decided to contact Attorney Davis even though he was traveling. They got his number from his secretary and called. Attorney Davis, this is Tyler Johnson. You called me about my grandfather's inheritance. Ah, yes, Tyler. Is everything all right with the trailer? Actually, no. Someone broke in and stole some documents. We wanted to know if you know anything about it. There was a long silence on the other end. Tyler, I think we should talk in person when I get back. Attorney, this is urgent. They're messing with my grandfather's things. Look, I'll be straight with you. Your grandfather came to me 2 years ago, shortly before he passed. He was worried about something, said some people were asking questions about him. What kind of questions? They wanted to know if he had assets, if he'd left a will, things like that. Walter got nervous and asked me only to contact you after he was gone. Why did he wait 2 years to tell me about the inheritance? Because he asked me to wait, said if anything happened to him, I should give it some time before reaching out to you, to make sure it was safe. Tyler felt a chill. Attorney, do you think my grandfather was in danger? I don't know, Tyler, but he was very frightened in his last weeks. He even asked me if I knew a safe place to keep important documents. And did you? I told him to use a bank-safe deposit box, but he said he didn't trust banks. Tyler remembered the safe he'd found in the trailer. Attorney Davis, I need you to come back as soon as possible. This is more serious than we thought. I'm returning tomorrow. Let's meet at my office. That night, Tyler and Emily stayed at her apartment, but neither could sleep properly. They were beginning to realize their family history was much more complicated than they'd imagined. Tyler, I'm scared, said Emily. Of what? What if the people looking for those documents find out you discovered the trailer? What if they come after us? Tyler hadn't considered that. If there really were people searching for something specific Walter had left, they wouldn't give up just because they didn't find it in the trailer. Emily, I think you should come to Chicago with me, at least until we understand what's happening. I can't just leave my job like that. Yes, you can, at least for a few days. This is about our safety. Emily reluctantly agreed. The next day, she requested some time off and returned to Chicago with Tyler. Karen wasn't thrilled about the visit, but agreed to let Emily stay in the guest room. Mom, I need to tell you what's going on, said Tyler, explaining everything about the stolen documents and people looking for Walter. Karen turned pale. Tyler, you both need to stay away from this. Let it go. How can we just let it go, Mom? Someone is looking for something that belonged to Grandpa. That's exactly why. If dangerous people are involved, you can't get mixed up in this. Mom, do you know something you haven't told us? Asked Tyler, suspicious. Karen hesitated before answering. Your grandfather wasn't the simple man you thought he was. He knew more than he let on. What kind of things? When your father got into that trouble, Walter found out there were other employees involved in the embezzlement, important people at the company. And why did he never report it? Because they threatened the family. They said if he spoke up, they'd hurt you. Tyler felt anger rising. Mom, you knew about this and never said anything. Walter made me promise I'd never tell. He took the blame precisely to protect all of us. Emily, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. So Grandpa not only took the blame for our dad, but also for the real culprits. Exactly. And those real culprits were never caught. Until now, said Tyler. That's why they're looking for Grandpa's documents. They know he had proof against them. Karen stood up nervously. Tyler, for heaven's sake, don't get involved. These people already destroyed our family once. Don't let them do it again. Mom, our family's been broken for 20 years. Maybe it's time to fix that. The next day, Tyler and Emily returned to Madison to meet with Attorney Davis. The meeting was eye-opening. Your grandfather first came to me 5 years ago, Davis explained. He had documents proving the embezzlement at the company was much bigger than anyone thought. It wasn't just the few thousand Richard took for his wife's treatment. How much was it? Hundreds of thousands. An operation involving several employees and even some of the company's clients. And my father knew about this? No. Richard was used as a scapegoat because he stumbled upon the operation by chance. They offered him a cut, but when he refused, they used the fact he'd taken money for his wife's treatment to blackmail him. Tyler felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief knowing his father wasn't just a common thief, and anger at discovering he'd been manipulated. Walter uncovered all this and gathered evidence for years, Davis continued, but when he tried to report it, he received direct threats. What kind of threats? They said if he spoke up, they'd fabricate proof that Richard had been involved from the start, and that they'd hurt you and Karen. So he stayed quiet. He did, but he kept gathering evidence, hoping one day he could use it. Davis explained that Walter had left a letter detailing where he'd hidden the most important documents. But that letter was in the attorney's own office, locked in a safe. Why didn't you tell me this before? Asked Tyler. Because Walter made me promise I'd only open the safe if something happened to the trailer. He believed as long as no one knew about the main documents, you'd be safe. But now someone's already tampered with the trailer. Exactly. That's why I'm telling you. Davis opened the safe and took out a sealed envelope with, for Tyler and Emily, open only in an emergency, written in Walter's handwriting. Tyler opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a letter and a hand-drawn map. My dear grandchildren, if you're reading this, it means the people who destroyed our family have found out about the trailer. Don't worry. I knew this might happen someday. That's why I hid the most important documents somewhere else. The map showed the location of a small town in the countryside near Chicago, about 2 hours from Madison, in Hot Springs at Mrs. Johnson's house, who took care of me when I was sick. There's a box buried in the backyard. Inside that box are all the pieces of evidence I gathered over 20 years. These are documents that could put a lot of important people behind bars. The letter continued with detailed instructions on how to find the house and locate the buried box. But be careful. These people won't give up easily. If you decide to use this evidence, do it as safely as possible. Seek help from the press or official authorities. Don't try to confront these people alone. Tyler and Emily exchanged glances. Let's go to Hot Springs, said Tyler. Tyler, this could be dangerous, said Attorney Davis. Attorney, my grandfather spent 20 years of his life gathering this evidence. I can't let it go to waste. What if these people find out you went there? Then we'll have to be very careful. Attorney Davis insisted on going with them to Hot Springs. It was a Saturday, and they thought it would be safer to travel on the weekend when there'd be less activity. The town was small and quiet. They easily found Mrs. Johnson's house. She was an 80-year-old woman who welcomed them with great joy. "Walter always talked about you," she said, hugging Tyler and Emily. "I've missed him so much. Mrs. Johnson, do you remember the box he buried here?" "Of course I remember. Poor thing, he was so worried about that box." Said it was the most important thing in his life. She led them to the backyard and showed them where Walter had buried the box under a rose bush. "He planted this rose on top to hide it," she explained. Tyler and Attorney Davis dug for about an hour until they found a tightly sealed metal box. When they opened it, they saw it was filled with documents neatly organized in folders. "My God," murmured Attorney Davis, flipping through some papers. "This is pure dynamite." The documents revealed a corruption network involving not just the company where Richard worked, but also other businesses and even some public officials. "Walter didn't just gather evidence about the embezzlement," said Attorney Davis. "He mapped out an entire criminal organization. There were detailed spreadsheets showing how the money was diverted, where it went, and who was involved. There were also cassette tapes with incriminating conversations." "How did Grandpa manage to get all this?" asked Emily. Mrs. Johnson explained that Walter had worked as a janitor at several companies after taking the blame for the embezzlement. People didn't pay attention to him, so he could overhear conversations and see documents he shouldn't have. He spent years pretending to be a harmless old man, but he was investigating everything, she said. "Why did he never use this evidence?" asked Tyler. "Because he was afraid of what they'd do to you, but also because he was waiting for the right moment." Attorney Davis was examining the documents more closely. "Tyler, some of the people involved in this operation still hold important positions today. If this comes out, it'll be a huge scandal. So this is what they're after. It's not just money, it's the evidence that could destroy them." They decided not to take the documents back to Madison right away. Attorney Davis suggested leaving everything at Mrs. Johnson's house for a few more days while they figured out their next move. "We need to think carefully before acting," the attorney said. "These people won't hesitate to harm you if they find out you have the documents." Back in Madison, Tyler and Emily felt both relieved and nervous. Relieved to have found the evidence, nervous about what it could mean. "Tyler, now I understand why Grandpa separated our family," said Emily. "He was protecting us from very dangerous people." "But Emily, we can't let these people get away with it forever. My father was wronged. My grandfather sacrificed his life because of them." "I know, but I also don't want anything to happen to you. I just found you." They spent Sunday talking about what to do. Tyler wanted to use the evidence immediately. Emily was afraid of the consequences. It was Attorney Davis who suggested a solution. "What if we look for an investigative journalist, someone who can use this information safely? Do you know anyone?" "I know a reporter in Chicago who works on corruption cases. He knows how to protect his sources." On Monday, they met with the journalist, Michael Roberts, at a discreet cafe in downtown Chicago. Tyler and Emily told the whole story, from discovering the trailer to the documents found in Hot Springs. Michael was very interested. "What you have here could bring down a lot of powerful people, but I need to analyze everything carefully before publishing anything." "How much time do you need?" "A few weeks. I have to verify the authenticity of the documents, cross-check information, and talk to other sources." "What about our safety?" "While I'm investigating, it's best for you to keep your normal routines. Don't talk about this with anyone beyond those who already know." Tyler and Emily agreed, but it was hard to go back to normal life knowing everything they'd uncovered. Emily decided to stay a few more days in Chicago, getting to know her brother better and trying to build the relationship they'd never had. They visited places from Tyler's childhood and talked about dreams and plans for the future. "You know what hurts the most?" Emily said one day. "Thinking about Grandpa living all these years with that burden, alone. He wasn't alone, he had you. But I didn't know anything. If I had, I could have helped him." "Emily, you did help. Just by existing, by growing up well, by becoming a good person. That must have given him strength to keep going." 2 weeks later, Michael called Tyler. "We need to talk urgently. I've discovered some very important things." They met again at the same cafe. Michael was visibly nervous. "The information you gave me is true. I've confirmed almost everything. But I also found out something you didn't know." "What?" "Walter wasn't just a victim in this story. He'd been working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation for years. Tyler and Emily were shocked. What do you mean? Your grandfather was an informant. He spent the last 5 years of his life helping the FBI build a case against this criminal organization. Why didn't anyone tell us? Because the investigation was still ongoing when he passed. The FBI was waiting for him to get the last pieces of evidence to close the case. Michael explained that Walter had gone to the FBI after receiving serious threats. He realized he could no longer stay silent and decided to cooperate with the authorities. He was gathering evidence not just to clear the family's name, but to help put these people away. Why did the investigation stop? It didn't. They were just waiting for Walter to deliver the last documents. When he passed, they thought the evidence was lost. So, if we give the documents to the FBI, they can reopen the investigation and arrest everyone. Tyler felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride knowing his grandfather had fought against injustice. Sadness that he'd carried that burden alone. Michael, we need to talk to the FBI today. I already did. They want to meet with you tomorrow. The next day, Tyler and Emily met with federal detective Mark Wilson, who had been handling the case from the start. Walter was a brave man, the detective said. Even when he was scared, he never gave up doing what was right. Why didn't you ever reach out to us? Tyler asked. Walter asked not to involve the family while he was alive. He said it was too dangerous. And after he passed away, we tried to locate you, but we only had old information. When we found out Tyler had inherited the trailer, it was already too late. Someone had been there before us. The detective confirmed that the people who broke into the trailer were from the criminal organization under investigation. They knew Walter had evidence against them and were desperate to find it. You took a huge risk going after those documents alone. These people don't mess around. But can you arrest them now? With the documents you found, we can arrest at least 15 people, including some in high-ranking positions today. Tyler handed all the documents over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It was an emotional moment, knowing he was finally fulfilling his grandfather's last wish. Detective, how long until these people are arrested? The arrests will begin next week. It'll be a large operation, coordinated across multiple cities. What about our safety? From now on, you'll be under FBI protection. Until all arrests are made, you can't return home. Tyler and Emily spent a week in a safe house under FBI protection. It was a strange time, but it brought them even closer. They had time to talk about everything, to plan their future together. Tyler, once this is all over, what do you want to do? I want us to be a real family. I want to make up for the years we lost. I want that too, but I'm afraid it might be too late. It's never too late to start over, Emily. The FBI operation was a success. 15 people were arrested, including former executives of the companies involved and some public officials. The case made headlines nationwide. Operation Late Justice arrests gang active for 20 years, Tyler read in the newspaper headline. Anonymous tip helps FBI dismantle million-dollar scheme, Emily read in another paper. Michael Roberts published a special feature telling the entire Johnson family story, from Walter's sacrifice to the discovery of the documents by his grandchildren. The grandfather who pretended to be guilty to protect his family and ended up taking down a crime ring was the article's title. The story touched many people. Tyler and Emily received hundreds of messages of support from those inspired by Walter's courage. But the most important consequence was personal. With the arrest of the real culprits, Richard's name was officially cleared. The court recognized he had been blackmailed and that the embezzlement was done under coercion. "Dad, your honor is finally restored," Tyler said, visiting his father's grave for the first time in years. Karen was deeply affected by the truth. She realized the extent of Walter's sacrifice and asked for forgiveness for years of resentment. "Father-in-law, forgive me," she said at Walter's grave. "You saved our family and I never thanked you." With the money Walter had left, Tyler and Emily decided to start a business together, a mechanic shop specializing in classic cars, honoring their grandfather's love for automobiles. Walter Johnson's Garage, Restoring Memories on Wheels. was the name they chose. Emily quit her job at the retirement home in Madison and moved permanently to Chicago. She and Tyler rented a small house in the same neighborhood as Karen to stay close to their stepmother. "Now we're a real family," Tyler said at the garage's opening. "Grandpa would be proud," Emily replied. The garage stood on the same property where the trailer had been. Tyler and Emily decided to restore the vehicle and turn it into a company office as a way to keep their grandfather's memory alive. "Every time we look at this trailer, we'll remember that love can overcome any obstacle," said Emily. 6 months after the criminal's arrest, Tyler received an unexpected call. It was Detective Mark Wilson. "Tyler, I have some news for you. We found more victims of this criminal organization. Families that were destroyed just like yours." "What does that mean?" "It means you helped bring justice to far more people than you imagined." The detective explained that dozens of families had been harmed by the scheme over the years. Many innocent people had taken blame that wasn't theirs, protecting the real criminals. "Walter didn't just save your family. He helped bring justice for hundreds of people." Tyler and Emily were moved to learn that their grandfather's sacrifice had a much greater impact than they'd thought. "Grandpa always said one person could make a difference in the world," said Emily. He was right. The Johnson family's story became a symbol of how love and courage can overcome injustice. Tyler and Emily were invited to give talks about forgiveness and resilience. "Our family was torn apart by lies, but brought together by the truth," Tyler would say in the talks. "And most importantly, it's never too late to rebuild family bonds," Emily would add. A year after it all began, Tyler and Emily threw a party at the garage's lot to celebrate Walter's life on the anniversary of his passing. It wasn't a sad occasion, but a celebration. Karen made her father-in-law's favorite dish. Mrs. Johnson came from Hot Springs. Jennifer brought the whole family. Even Detective Mark and journalist Michael showed up. "Grandpa always dreamed of reuniting the family," said Emily, raising a soda in a toast. "He did it." "And he did so much more," said Tyler. "He taught us it's worth fighting for what's right, even when it seems impossible." During the party, they opened the restored trailer and showed everyone the letters and photos Walter had kept for so many years. "Every letter here is proof of his love for us," Tyler explained to the guests. "And every photo is proof he never gave up on this family," Emily added. At the end of the night, when everyone had left, Tyler and Emily stayed alone in the trailer, rereading some of their grandfather's letters. "Tyler, do you think Grandpa knew everything would turn out okay? I think he had hope, and sometimes hope is all you need to keep going. You know what moves me most about these letters?" "What?" "In every single one, Grandpa talks about the two of us. He never stopped believing we'd find each other one day." Tyler hugged his sister, and he was right. "We found each other. The family came back together. Justice was served. And now? Now we live. We live for the years we lost. For Grandpa, who isn't here to see it. For Dad, who never got to clear his name." They locked up the trailer and walked toward the house, where Karen was waiting with dinner ready. "Mum, thank you for accepting Emily as your daughter," said Tyler. "She's always been my daughter. I was just foolish not to see it sooner," Karen replied. That night, the three of them ate together as a family. They talked about plans for the garage, trips they wanted to take, and the grandchildren Karen hoped to have one day. "You know what I want most?" said Karen. "What, Mum?" "I want you both to be happy. You deserve happiness after all you've been through." "We are happy, Mom," said Emily. "We're finally a real family." 2 years later, Walter Johnson's garage was one of the most respected businesses in the area. Tyler had specialized in restoring classic cars, and Emily handled the administrative side and customer service. They kept up a tradition. Every month they visited their grandfather's grave and told him the latest news about the family and the business. "Grandpa, the garage is doing really well," Tyler would say. "We're restoring a 1968 Beetle, just like the one you used to have. And we're helping other families too," Emily would add. "One of our customers had been searching for his brother for 30 years. We helped him find him." The Johnson family's story had inspired Tyler and Emily to help others reunite with lost relatives. They used the garage as the base for a social project called Heart Reunions. Grandpa taught us that family is the most important thing in the world, Tyler explained to journalists who came to learn about the project. And that we should never give up searching for those we love, Emily added. The project had already reunited over 50 families in 2 years. Each reunion was a celebration at the garage, with Tyler and Emily sharing their own story as inspiration. If we manage to find each other after 20 years apart, any family can reunite, Emily would say. At one of these gatherings, a 70-year-old woman approached Tyler and Emily. "You saved my family," she said, crying. "I hadn't seen my daughter in 15 years because of a misunderstanding. You gave me the courage to look for her." "You're the one who saved your family," Tyler replied. "We just helped." "No, you did so much more. You showed that love always wins over pride." Stories like this kept repeating. Walter Johnson's garage had become more than a business. It was a symbol of hope for separated families. "I think this is what Grandpa wanted," Emily told Tyler one day, "for us to use our story to help others. He always wrote in his letters that family is everything. Now we're helping others understand that too." On the 3rd anniversary of discovering the trailer, Tyler decided to surprise Emily. He had tracked down the first school she attended and found out her teacher from back then was still alive. "Emily, there's someone here who wants to see you," he said, bringing a 60-year-old woman into the garage. "Teacher, Sarah," Emily shouted, running to hug her. "My dear, how you've grown, and I'm so proud to see what you've become." The teacher said she remembered Emily perfectly as a child, always asking about her brother and drawing pictures of happy families. She always said one day her brother would come for her, the teacher told Tyler. She never lost hope. And she was right, Tyler said, moved. Reuniting with her teacher made Emily recall more childhood details. She told Tyler about the years she spent waiting for him, how their grandfather always said he was a special boy. "Grandpa used to say you were just like Dad when he was young, brave, determined, with a big heart. And he said you were just like Grandma, sweet, caring, always thinking of others." "We never got to meet our paternal grandmother, did we?" "No, she passed away when I was very little, but Grandpa always spoke of her so fondly." They decided to visit their grandmother's grave together for the first time. It was in a cemetery in Chicago, not far from where they lived. "Grandma Betty, it's us, your grandchildren," Tyler said. "We finally found each other." "You'd be so proud of how Grandpa took care of us, even from afar," Emily said. At their grandmother's grave, they found fresh flowers. There was a note, "To my dear mother-in-law, who always believed in the power of family love. Karen." "Mom's been here," Tyler realized. "She's trying to make peace with the past," Emily said. When they returned home, they found Karen in the kitchen, putting together a family photo album. "Kids, I'm organizing our story. I want everything documented for you." "What a great idea, Mom," said Tyler. "I'm adding the photos you brought from the trailer, the ones from the garage and the pictures from the project's celebrations. Our family got a fresh start, and that deserves to be remembered forever." The album turned out beautiful. It told the entire story of the Johnson family, from the old photos of Richard and Walter in their youth to the recent ones of the garage and the social project. "One day, when you have children, they'll get to know our whole history," Karen said. "Mom, are you already thinking about grandchildren?" Emily teased. "Of course. A family that reunited after so long deserves to grow and multiply." Tyler laughed. "First, we need to find someone to date, Mom." "You will. People with hearts as big as yours always find someone special." 6 months later, Tyler met Jessica, a veterinarian who brought her car to the garage for repairs. She was moved by the family's story and the social project. "Your story is so beautiful," she said. "It must have been so hard growing up without knowing about each other." "It was, but it was worth the wait," Tyler replied. "Now we cherish every day together." Jessica started visiting the garage often and soon became part of the family. She helped with clients' pets and even brought ideas to expand the social project. "What if you started a radio show?" she suggested. "You could share stories of reunited families and help more people." The idea was a hit. Heart Reunions became a weekly show on the local radio station, with Tyler and Emily sharing real stories of people who had found each other again. "Good evening, this is Tyler Johnson," And I'm Emily Johnson Davis. Welcome to Heart Reunions. Tonight, we'll share the story of Mrs. Margaret, who reunited with her son after 40 years. Each episode touched listeners' hearts and sparked new family reunions. The radio station received hundreds of letters every week from people searching for relatives or sharing their own reunion stories. "Grandpa must be smiling in heaven," Emily told Tyler after an especially emotional episode. "Absolutely. He always believed in the power of family love." On the 4th anniversary of discovering the trailer, the city of Chicago honored Tyler and Emily with a Medal of Merit for their social work. "It's an honor to represent not just our family, but all the families reunited through our efforts," Tyler said in his speech. "And we dedicate this recognition to our grandfather, Walter Johnson, who taught us it's never too late to fight for what's right," Emily added. In the audience were Karen, Jessica, Mrs. Johnson, Detective Mark Wilson, journalist Michael Roberts, and dozens of families reunited through the project. "You planted a seed of hope that grew and multiplied," the mayor said during the ceremony. "You're an example for the whole city." After the ceremony, everyone went to the garage to celebrate. The restored trailer was decorated with flowers and photos of all the families reunited over the years. "Grandpa, your dream multiplied," Tyler said, looking at a photo of Walter on the makeshift altar. "The family you loved so much now helps other families love each other too." "And this is just the beginning," Emily added. "As long as there are families apart, we'll be here to help." The celebration lasted late into the night, with people sharing their stories, children playing in the garage's yard, and everyone celebrating the power of family love. "Tyler, Emily," said an 8-year-old girl who had been part of one of the reunions, "when I grow up, I want to help families like yours." "And you will," said Emily, bending down to the little girl's level. "What you need to do is never lose hope and always believe in love. Like your grandpa did." Exactly like our grandpa did. 5 years after the discovery of the trailer, Tyler and Jessica married in a simple ceremony in the garage's backyard. The restored trailer served as an altar, decorated with Walter's favorite flowers. "Grandpa would be so happy seeing this," said Emily, who was the maid of honor. "He is watching," said Karen, who cried throughout the ceremony. "I'm sure he's watching and smiling." The wedding turned into a big community celebration. All the families reunited through the project attended, transforming the garage into a sea of joy and gratitude. "Today, we're not just celebrating Tyler and Jessica's marriage," Emily said in her speech. "We're celebrating the power of love in all its forms: marital love, family love, love for the community. And we're celebrating the memory of a man who believed in love even when all seemed lost," Tyler added. During the party, Detective Mark Wilson approached Tyler with special news. "Tyler, I want you to know that the case of the criminal organization you helped dismantle has become a national example. Other states are using the investigative methods we developed from your grandfather's evidence. Really, really. Walter didn't just bring justice for you, he changed how we investigate financial crimes in this country." The news moved everyone present. Walter's sacrifice had a far greater impact than anyone could have imagined. "Grandpa became a national hero," Emily joked. "He always was a hero," Tyler said. "It just took the world a while to recognize it." 2 years after the wedding, Jessica and Tyler announced they were expecting their first child. The news sent the whole family into celebration. "I'm finally going to be a grandma," Karen cheered. "And I'm going to be an aunt," Emily exclaimed. "And Grandpa Walter will have a great-grandchild," Tyler said, emotional. During Jessica's pregnancy, Tyler and Emily began thinking about how to tell the family's story to the next generation. "This baby needs to know their great-grandfather's story," Emily said. "They will. And they'll grow up knowing family is the most important thing in the world. Like we learned, just too late. It's never too late to learn about love, Emily." When the baby was born, it was a girl. Tyler and Jessica decided to name her Wally in honor of her grandfather. "Hello, Wally," Tyler said, holding his daughter for the first time. "You have so much to learn about your family." "And so much love waiting for you," Emily said, tears in her eyes. Karen couldn't hold back her tears seeing her granddaughter. "Walter, your dream has come true completely," she said, looking up at the sky. The family didn't just reunite, it grew. Wally's baptism was held in the same place as her parents' wedding, the garage's backyard, beside the restored trailer. The priest who officiated knew the family's story and made sure to include it in his sermon. "This child is born into a family that was torn apart by lies and reunited by truth," he said. "She will grow up knowing true love overcomes any obstacle, and knowing she should never give up on family," Tyler added. During the baptism celebration, Emily announced a surprise. She had decided to write a book telling the whole family story. "I want our story to be known by more people. I want others to know it's possible to rebuild family bonds, no matter how much time has passed." "What title will you give it?" Tyler asked. "The Trailer of Secrets, a story of family love." "Perfect," Jessica said. "Your story deserves to be told to the whole world." The book was released a year later and became a national success. Emily traveled across the country, sharing the story in lectures and TV programs, always accompanied by Tyler whenever possible. "Our message is simple," she would say in interviews. "Never give up on family. It's never too late to forgive, to start over, to reunite. And always fight for what's right, even when it seems impossible," Tyler would add. The success of the book brought even more attention to the Heart Reunions project. Tyler and Emily decided to expand their work, creating an NGO and opening branches in other cities. "Let's spread Grandpa's legacy across the whole country," said Emily. "And maybe even the world," said Tyler. 10 years after the discovery of the trailer, the Heart Reunions NGO had already reunited over 1,000 families across the United States. The original garage kept running, but now it also served as the national headquarters for the organization. The restored trailer became a museum about the Johnson family's history and a symbol of hope for separated families nationwide. "Daddy, tell me the story about Great-Grandpa again," asked Wally, now 8 years old, every time she visited the trailer. "Once upon a time, there was a very brave man who loved his family so much he was willing to sacrifice everything for them," Tyler would begin. "And he never stopped believing that one day they'd all be together again." The little girl would finish, already knowing the story by heart. "Exactly. And do you know why he never gave up? Because family love is stronger than anything in the world." "That's right, sweetheart. Family love is stronger than anything in the world." On the 10th anniversary of the trailer's discovery, the family organized a big celebration at the site. They invited all the families they had reunited over the years, authorities, journalists, and people inspired by their story. 10 years ago, I was just a young mechanic who didn't even know he had a sister," Tyler said in his opening speech. "Today, I'm a fulfilled man with a beautiful family and a mission to help other families reunite. And I was a lonely woman who had given up on having a complete family," said Emily. "Now I know family isn't just about blood, it's about choice, love, and dedication. Together, we learned that our grandfather not only loved us, but believed so deeply in the power of family love that he dedicated his whole life to protecting and reuniting our family," said Tyler. "And now, 10 years later, that same belief in family love has reunited over 1,000 families across the United States," Emily added. The celebration lasted all day, with musical performances, emotional testimonials, and lots of joy. The most special moment was when Wally, still just a child, took the stage to speak. "I was born into a family that truly loves each other," she said with childlike sincerity. "My dad and my aunt found each other because the great-grandpa I never met kept letters and photos full of love. Now they help other families find each other too, and when I grow up, I'll help too." The audience gave a standing ovation. Many moved to tears. "The next generation is already ready to carry on the legacy," Karen whispered to Jessica. "Walter planted a seed that will keep growing for generations," Jessica replied. At the end of the celebration, when everyone had left, the family gathered in the trailer for a quiet moment. Tyler, Emily, Jessica, Karen, and Wally sat in a circle, holding hands. "Grandpa Walter," Tyler said, looking at the photo of his grandfather on the wall, 10 years ago, when I found your trailer, I never imagined that discovery would change not just our lives, but the lives of so many other families. You taught us that true love never gives up, said Emily, and that one person can make a difference in the world when they follow their heart. Thank you for creating the most beautiful family in the world, said Jessica. Thank you for giving me the most wonderful son and daughter-in-law, said Karen. Great-grandpa, I love you even though I never met you, said Wally, and I promise I'll take care of our family forever. At that moment, a gentle breeze swayed the trailer's curtains, as if Walter were there, blessing the family he loved so much. He's here with us, said Emily, moved. He always has been, said Tyler, and he always will be. They stayed silent for a few minutes, feeling Walter's loving presence and reflecting on the incredible journey they had lived. You know what's the most beautiful thing about all this? Said Karen, breaking the silence. What, Mum? Asked Tyler and Emily together. You turned a family tragedy into a blessing for thousands of people. You took the pain of separation and turned it into the joy of reunion. Just like Grandpa taught us, said Tyler. He turned his pain into love. And we learned to do the same, said Emily. When they left the trailer that night, they knew it wasn't an end, but a new beginning. The Johnson family's story would keep being told, inspiring people for generations. The rusty trailer that once held painful secrets was now a monument to family love. The letters that were once tears of longing were now smiles of hope. And the family once torn apart by lies was now forever united by the truth. Grandpa did it, said Tyler, taking one last look at the trailer before locking the gate. He brought our family together and left a legacy that will last forever. And the most amazing part, said Emily, is that it all started with an inheritance I almost didn't even go after. God's plans are always perfect, said Karen. Walter may be gone, but his love is still working miracles. Walking toward the house, where a family dinner awaited them, they knew they had lived a story that would change lives forever. A story of love, sacrifice, forgiveness, and reunion. A story that began with a rusty trailer and became a national movement of family love. Daddy, said Wally, holding her father's hand, when I grow up and have kids, will I tell them the story of the great-grandpa who loved his family so much he kept love letters for 20 years? Yes, sweetheart, and they'll tell their children and so on. Grandpa Walter's story will never be forgotten. And neither will our family's love, the little girl added. Never, said Tyler, smiling at Emily. Our family's love is eternal. The end. Now, tell me what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. If you have something to share with us, leave a sincere comment below. Do you believe family love can overcome any obstacle? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.